In this lecture, we're going to learn about animation avatars. This is a super useful feature that lets you reuse the same animations on multiple different models. So first, let's see the main purpose of animation avatars, which is animation retargeting. Over here, I have a simple character playing a run animation. This is actually from the Unity official third-person starter pack. So I've got various animations for this specific character, but now I want to use these same animations on a different character. Now over here I have another character that is part of a separate asset pack that I bought, and I want to use those same animations with this character. So over here I set up the exact same animator, and if I hit on play, and nope, doesn't work, the character is not moving at all. So this is where the avatar comes in. In the animator you see a field for a animator controller and then also a avatar. So the animator will essentially apply the animations on this controller according to this avatar. Now, since we changed the character, we need to use the avatar of this new character, so the avatar that was made for this specific mesh. And for this particular one, the asset pack that I bought with this character already includes a character avatar, so I just need to go select this one and use the character avatar for this specific character. And just with that, if I hit on play, and yep, the animations work perfectly. So as you can see, this is a super useful feature. It means that you can get some humanoid animations from anywhere you want and combine them with any humanoid visual. All you need to do is make sure the animator has the avatar for the mesh that you're using, and all of the animations will work perfectly. So now let's see what is actually an avatar. For example, let's see the one that is included in the official Unity third-person starter pack. So in this one you've got the armature, that's the model, and then inside the model you've got the avatar, and on the inspector you can click on this button to configure it, and yep, out it shows the avatar window. So in the hierarchy here we can see the bone structure for this particular mesh. So it's got the skeleton, then the hips, the legs, the spine, the chest, and so on. And then on the inspector, over here you can see all of the game objects attached to a specific bone. This is how Unity can reuse animations between different avatars. So the avatar acts kind of like a middleman format. The animations work on the avatar body parts, and each avatar has a slightly different bone structure, which is then connected into the specific body parts. So when you make a normal animation, something not related to avatars, when you do that, the animation records the specific game object that you changed and what changed. Whereas when working with humanoid avatars, instead of the animation recording the specific game object, what it does is records which type of bone it changed and in what way. Meaning that when you use that animation on a different avatar, as long as the bones are assigned here, then the animation knows which object it should modify. Then here on the body parts you've got two bones. You can see by the little circle and the dashed circle. So these ones are required and these ones are optional. You've got all of the various bones. Then over here you can go more detail into each specific body part. So for example, this mesh in here does not have a bone for the left eye or for the right eye, but those are optional, so everything still works. Then you can inspect the bones on the hands and so on. And then up here you've got another tab for the muscles and settings. So this is for more advanced use cases. You can essentially limit how far you want the joints to move. So you can play around with this to see how modifying the muscles modifies your actual mesh. So left, right, roll left, right, and out, and so on. And you can go on a per muscle settings. So for example, let's go up here into the left arm. So that's the shoulder moving up and down. And using this, you can limit just how far the joints can move. So if you have a mesh that you want to have a very specific movement range, like for example, maybe a character with some bulky armor and you don't want the arms to clip, then this is where you'd set it. So you got the shoulder saying goes from there into there, and let's say you don't want it to go up so much, so you limit the maximum to that one, and now as it goes, it all moves that. Okay, now let's see how avatars are actually created. So over here, I've got another character mesh, and if you expand, you can see that it does not have an avatar. So here, if I try to add an animated component, I cannot actually use it because I do not have the avatar object. Now, if you select the mesh itself, and over here on the import settings, you can go into the rig tab. And for the animation type, in order for animation retargeting to work, you need to select humanoid. And then you have the options for automatically creating from this model or copying from another avatar. So if the character has been rigged correctly, you can just create from this model. So just like that, you hit on apply. And yep, it automatically created the avatar. And now you can configure the avatar to inspect and see that yep, all the bones are in there and all of them are assigned. So I can go in here using this animator, let's assign this avatar and hit on play. And yep, there's our animation working with different mesh. So one quick note here, as for how you create the bones individually, that is a whole nother topic. Now me personally, I am not a professional animator or rigger, those are very specific skill sets. So in my case, all that I do is the automatic creation from any assets that I purchase, and pretty much any asset that you get will already have a working rig. If you want to make your own original characters, then look for some courses that teach you 3D modeling along with animation rigging. As long as you rig your character using whatever program you want, then Unity should be able to automatically create the avatar and make it work with any animation. For example, one excellent place to grab animations for free is Mixamo. It's got all kinds of animations and even a whole bunch of unique 3D models. This is a super useful website, so let's quickly see how you would import them. So here, just browse around and look for an animation. So for example, up here, the taunt animation. Then up here, you've got a bunch of settings, and you can click to download. Now when you do, it shows you a bunch more settings. So first of all, on the format, there's a specific one, FBX for Unity. Then frames per second, 30 FPS is good. Then width skin, so this includes either the mesh or not. So in this case, let's just say yes. And then keyframe reduction, yeah, no need. So just go ahead, hit on download. Now just copy the file onto your project files. And over here is the FBX file, so you can expand and look at it. And you can see that it does include the animation. There you go, there's the animation. Now let's say I want to use that animation with a character that I already have. If I just open up my animator and I just drag the animation directly, set this one as the layer default state, and now I try to play, and nope, it does not work. That is because this animation isn't set up as humanoid, so Unity doesn't know which objects it should move. So to fix that, select the animation, then go over here onto rig, and as you can see, the animation type is set as generic. So instead, let's set it as humanoid. Now hit on create. And now you can use this animation. So again, here, the same animation, and if I hit on play, and yep, since the animation is now set as humanoid, then we have an avatar, now everything works perfectly. Again, just remember, you need to use the avatar for the mesh, not the avatar for the animation. So always keep that in mind. Now another option that we saw over here in Mixamo is download without a skin, meaning that it will not include the visual for this character, so if all you want is the animation, then just get this one. Now another quick tip, right now the animation is directly inside this FBX file, but if you really want just this animation, then you can select it, then hit on Ctrl D in order to duplicate it, and that creates the same animation file but outside of the FBX, and now you can use this just like normal. Also, one bonus thing about doing this method is that if you go into the animation, select this guy, let's see the taunt animation, and as you can see, the one that is on the FBX file is marked as read only, so you cannot modify this. But the one that we just duplicated, that one is now read and write, so we can now easily modify this to do anything we want. And on Mixamo, as we saw, we can also just download characters. So here you got a whole bunch of them that you can easily download. Let's see how that's done. So for example, select this character. If there it is, we want to use this character, so hit on download. And now here, if you use the FBX for Unity like we've used, and select width skin, if you do it like this and you download, this downloads an FBX file which does contain a mesh, although apparently it does not contain the textures, but really it does have them. They are inside the asset and they need to be extracted. So you can select the asset, then go into the Materials tab, and here you can extract the textures and materials. Or alternatively, you can also download another format. So instead, over here when you select on download, instead of FBX for Unity, select Collada. This one downloads a zip file that contains the .dae file with the mesh, and then also all of the textures. So just extract this onto your project files. And yep, here now we do see the mesh, and inside we do see the skin mesh renderer, which does have a material, and that material does have a reference to the textures. However, just like this, you might see it in pink, so that's the usual thing with the render pipelines. Here I'm using URP, and by default this material is using the built-in standard shader, so we need to upgrade this. However, if we use the normal upgrade path, so just go into Edit, Render Pipeline, Universal, and upgrade all of them. If you do that, then it won't actually upgrade. It doesn't change because this material is actually inside over here, inside the other file. So we need to do the same thing that we did with the animation. So just Ctrl D to duplicate this one, and it duplicates outside of the actual object. And over here we can indeed run the upgrade tool. And yep, it does upgrade into the URP lit shader using this material. So now you can just apply this material onto this one. And yep, we have our fully textured character. Now we need this to do the same thing we saw, so go into Rig, make this a humanoid character, create from this model. Then over here on the animator, let's assign the avatar for this model, then hit on play. And yep, we can now use this custom character with any animation. Alright, awesome. Okay, so just one more thing related to avatars. As you saw in the animator lecture, you can make multiple layers in the animator. So over here on the animator, you can click on the plus icon to make a new layer. And then on each layer over here, you can apply something called an avatar mask. So this is how you can apply certain layers of animations to only certain body parts. And the way you create an avatar mask is just right click, go into create, and go down here, make a new avatar mask. Then in the inspector, you can expand these in order to see the various body parts. So the mask will impact the areas in green and it will ignore the areas in red. So for example, let's ignore everything except the upper body. Okay, now let's apply this mask. You just go in there and select it. So now when I play the game, it's going to play the run animation, and then it's going to override the idle animation, but only on the objects that match up with this avatar mask. So the way that I have selected, it's essentially going to go through the avatar in order to find all the bones that belong to these specific body parts. So the upper body, left, right arm, head, and so on. And then it will essentially apply this idle animation to those bones and leave the other animation on the other bones. Go watch the animator lecture to learn more about animator layers if you haven't seen it yet. But yep, essentially this is what happens. So the bottom part is playing the wonk animation, and then the top one, being driven by the avatar mask, it's only playing the idle animation. Then on the avatar mask, the other thing that you see is over here the transform. So here you can import an avatar. So for example, the one for this character, click on import skeleton. And over here you see all of the game objects that make up this avatar. And this is how you can say that you want this avatar mask to be applied to only certain bones and not others. However, there is one very important caveat, which is that this part, the transform part, this one only works for non-humanoid rigs. So in this case, we've been using this mask on a humanoid character, so changing any of these settings will not do anything. This transform part, this only works for non-humanoid rigs or any extra bones on a humanoid rig. So the part up here is for humanoid body parts, and the transform down here is for non-humanoid bones. So for example, if you had a humanoid with a tail, you would mask out the normal body parts up here and mask the tail bones down here. If your character is a standard humanoid with no extra bones, then you don't touch the transform and you only modify things up here. Alright, so that's animation avatars. It's a super useful feature that essentially lets you use any humanoid character with any humanoid animation. So you can easily make or buy some 3D models, then use a completely different animation pack and make them all work together with one another.